The Joker is arguably Batman's headline villain, and as such, he has been in multiple episodes of Batman the Animated Series, The New Batman Adventures, and Justice League. He even made unexpected appearances in Batman Beyond and Static Shock. And for good reason. Mark Hamill's portrayal as the Clown Prince of Crime, I literally just this moment realised that was a play on Crown Prince. How stupid am I? Was a revelation, and is still undefeated to this day. Sorry, Jared Leto. Having said that, a couple of his early BTAS episodes, frankly, weren't very good, and were more reminiscent of the kind of thing we might have seen in some of the older cartoons like the Super Friends. Shallow motivations with little personality outside of making some crappy one-liner jokes. It wasn't until Paul Dini got his hands on the character that I think that BTAS's version of the Joker found his feet. And today I want to talk about the episode that I think is the best Joker episode. Let's talk about The Joker's Favour. Now, I know a lot of people rate episodes like The Laughing Fish higher than Joker's Favour, and yeah, I completely see where you're coming from. And I've really ummed and ahed about this dilemma for a while. The Laughing Fish is a great example of how sinister the Joker can be, while also placing him in an absurd situation where he's poisoned Gotham's fish supply and given them his trademark grin, in the hope that he can cash in on it. It's actually an adaptation of 3 well-loved Batman comic books from the 70s, The Joker's Five-Way Revenge, Sign of the Joker, and The Laughing Fish, all merged together to make one new story, and I think that adds gravitas to the episode. But perhaps that's a topic for another time, because I want to talk about another Joker episode that I think just about narrowly squeezes ahead and has earned the title of my favourite Joker episode. Not only does this episode have the distinct honour of being the very first appearance of one Harley Quinn, although apparently she wasn't named until much later, we get a rare example of Batman's premier villain interacting with the real world in the form of one Charles Michael Collins. Now, old Charlie is presented to us as an average sort of middle-aged man, the kind of guy that gets frustrated on the freeway, who moans about his wife making meatloaf for dinner and wishes he had a bit more confidence. Maybe then he'd get that raise he's been asking for at work. As an aside, his character model was based on series producer Alan Burnett, which adds an extra dimension to Charlie's character, I think. Until that point, Burnett had worked on more traditional cartoons like DuckTales and the Super Friends. In fact, prior to BTAS, he had even considered leaving the animation industry because he was so dissatisfied with the restrictions placed on him, things like the heroes not being able to throw punches. I like to imagine the reason why the Joker torments poor Charlie Collins so much is kind of a cathartic release of that frustration, in celebration of the liberty they had on BTAS. Unfortunately, Charlie chooses the wrong moment to grow a spine when a car cuts him off on the freeway, and he decides to give the driver a piece of his mind.
Hey, buddy! Yeah, I'm talking to you, clown! You think you own the whole road? Why, for 2 cents
The driver is, of course, the recently escaped Joker. The thing I really love about this opening is that initial look on the Joker's face. He's almost waiting for the penny to drop for Charlie to realise who he is. Without saying a word, the Joker simply turns towards Charlie, lifts his hat up a little and smiles. And we have never seen such a menacing smile before. No matter what Charlie does, he cannot escape the Joker, even when he suddenly lurches off the freeway and into suburbia and then the countryside. The Joker is right there around every corner, greeting Charlie with that silent, awful grin. The whole scenario is absurd. I mean, what are the chances? It's almost like a demented Looney Tunes cartoon, except the threat of violence is very real. And the Joker's prolonged silence is absolute murder. When the Joker does eventually speak, he delivers a lesson in manners. The Joker? Manners? Charlie is absolutely convinced that he has met his end, but instead the Joker decides that Charlie is now indebted to him, and one day he will call in that favour, whatever it might be. It's this glimpse into how the normal, everyday people of Gotham react to the Joker that I find so appealing, and Charlie fleeing Gotham and changing his and his family's name is a very strong reaction. I have to wonder how he sold his wife and son on that massive change. So immediately there's a neat blend of comedy and horror, and this is really apparent in the music from the opening. Charlie's theme is kind of dumpy, bumbling and waddling, and it's interesting to hear the Joker's theme being worked into it as the chase begins. Shirley Walker was a musical genius, and I don't possess the necessary critical language to do her work justice. So all I will say is that I get what she was trying to achieve thematically, and I really appreciate it. Now, I touched upon this earlier, but I think the main thing that I enjoy about this episode is the blend of the absurd humour and the murderous threats. It's the perfect distillation of who I think the Joker should be. I will never not laugh at the moment that the Joker reveals Charlie's role in his plan, to hold the door open for Harley while she wheels in the cake that the Joker is hiding inside of.
That's the favor? You called me here just to open a door?
Well, look at the size of that cake, man! She can't open the door and push it in all at once! Think!
Of course, the Joker had no intention of letting Charlie go afterwards. Instead, he traps him in the room with his explosives.
Wait! You promised to send me home!
I never said alive.
And this scene really highlights how the Joker can't be trusted. Charlie upheld his side of the bargain, but the Joker betrayed him. This shows how petty the Joker is, and how he never lets go of a grudge. He had even kept a little black book full of all the private details about Charlie and his family. The fact that the Joker chose to wait years before calling in the favour, knowing full well that Charlie was trying to get away from him by moving out of town, just highlights the Joker's cruelty and the sadistic pleasure he gets from making Charlie squirm. Likewise, the Joker has this pathetic need to be applauded. Look at his face when Rocco and Henshaw fail to applaud his genius. The applause is completely inauthentic, yet he still craves it. Don't get me wrong, I think this Joker is brilliant, but he is still pathetic and needy. Of course, Charlie is able to get his own revenge, and we get a rare glimpse at the Joker's vulnerability. When faced with the prospect of being blown up by Charlie, the Joker's first instinct is to yell to Batman for help. I'm not really sure if the Joker is upset at the prospect of dying, or simply dying before he can best Batman. Still, the Joker knows that Batman wouldn't let him die, or anyone else for that matter, underscoring Batman's heroism. It's interesting to note also how Batman doesn't even flinch when the bomb lands at his feet, while the Joker shrieks and hides behind Batman's cape. And in terms of his appearances across the DC animated universe, I think this over-the-top comedic reaction is a nice middle ground interpretation of the character. He is a little goofy, but he's no way near as absurd as he appeared in The Last Laugh. He's also quite dark, but not as dark as, say, Return of the Joker. This potential murder-suicide reference aside, there are a couple of other adult references here that would have completely flown over the heads of most children. They certainly flew over my head as a kid. Firstly, there's Bullock propositioning Harley Quinn, and the fact that everyone in the room thinks she's a stripper. Just look at the expression on Montoya's face. Yes, there are some absurd elements like the recreated Aztec temple complete with realistic death traps. How did that pass a health and safety assessment? But these act as a callback of sorts to a lighter era of Batman comics. Additionally, Harley Quinn was envisaged as a one-and-done callback to the days of Cesar Romero's Joker, who often had a girlfriend around to help him out. However, the overwhelming charisma of Arlene Sorkin led to the character making a comeback and eventually going on to take over the entire DC universe. Go and watch my video on that if you haven't already. If it's not clear already, I think it's this blend of old-fashioned, light-hearted Batman with the menacing Dark Deco Batman, kind of like mixing salty and sweet, that makes this episode edge out ahead of other Joker episodes, setting the bar for subsequent Joker appearances and cementing Mark Hamill's status as the best Joker. Yes, I do accept that The Laughing Fish is also an excellent episode, and if you told me that it was your favourite one, hey, I'm not going to argue with you. You ain't wrong. It's just I happen to prefer this one.